Tuesday, October 11th, 2011. Jim Spence is here. I'm Michael Swickard. Website, newsnm.com. And remember, if you have small kids at home, read to them 20 minutes each day. The quote for the hour, Jim Spence. I heard this person say, you know, crime does pay because the hours are good, and if you're caught, you get free room and board, meals, and exercise. So crime does pay.
There you go.
I'm not sure I believe that. We have Marita Noon, Energy Makes America Great, on the Newsmaker line. Hi, Marita.
Good morning. Good to be with you, gentlemen.
So where are you this morning, Marita?
I am in Odessa, Texas at the moment.
Odessa, Texas. And what in the world would you be doing in Odessa, Texas?
Well, I was just on a radio show here in Odessa from 7:30 to 8 o'clock Texas time.
Okay.
And the reason I'm here is not to do a radio program. I'm speaking for the Natural Gas Society of the Permian Basin in Midland, Texas today.
Do they have any interest in why energy makes America great in Odessa?
You know, I got to tell you, they need to learn. The rest of the country needs to take a lesson from this region.
Yeah.
This place is booming. I mean, yesterday morning, I'm a little bit of a flake. I was on a little bit of a vacation last week, got home Saturday night. Sunday afternoon after church, I kind of realized, oops, I kind of need to get my week going to Midland. I need to get my act together. And so I decided, I would call the radio station here that I've been on with before and see if they'd like to have me on the air. And so I had to wait till Monday to do that. I did, and they said, yes, we'd like to have you. So that made my decision, okay, well, to be on the air early in the morning in Odessa, I should get a hotel room for Monday night in Odessa rather than Midland. That makes sense. So yesterday morning, I get on the Internet and try to find myself a hotel room. There is not a hotel room to be found in either Midland or Odessa. I finally had to call up a friend and say, I'm sorry to bother you, but is your guest room available? I could not get a hotel room. This place is busy like crazy. And you know why it's busy like crazy?
Because energy makes America and Odessa great.
And they have a lot of it here. They have a lot of natural gas, and they have a lot of oil here, and they are extracting it, and the economy here is booming. And, you know, it just baffles me when we look at where in the United States there are jobs, where there is a strong economy, where there is a low unemployment. It's largely connected to natural resource extraction, and why we can't get that lesson across through the heads of the people in Washington, D.C., particularly in the White House, is just baffling to me.
One of the things, I was talking to a friend in Hobbs, and they said that their Walmart there doesn't go 24 hours. It's certified to go 24 hours. You know why they don't do 24 hours, Marita?
No, I don't. Tell me.
Can't get enough people to work. Everybody else has been hired out into the oil fields and all the support companies, and they just have trouble getting enough people to come in and work just 7 a.m. to midnight. One more shift, they just can't fill it up.
So, Marita, let's talk smash capitalism. Liberate or obliterate the planet. Now, that's your latest column. We have it up on our site with a link to Town Hall where the rest of the column is. So what are you talking about here? You start off talking about this Occupy Wall Street thing, which is capturing the mainstream media's attention quite a bit these days. Talk a little bit about your column this week.
Well, thank you. Yes, as I was looking at the Occupy Wall Street and the news it is garnering, I realized that what would happen if the goals of Occupy Wall Street, which is apparently an expanding movement, of course it's now got a lot of additional support and help in that Nancy Pelosi and other prominent Democrats have come on board and supported it, and the unions have come on board and are backing this movement. So it's picking up some steam. What would happen if we could give them what they want? And so I, of course, did some research as to what are they after. And on OccupyWallStreet.org is a list of demands, kind of a manifesto. Now, the website, I have to say, put a little caveat in here, is that the website does say they have no official demands. And if you paid any attention, if your listeners have paid any attention to the news, where they're interviewing some of these people, and of course they tend to put the more entertaining things that people want on the news, and the more entertaining characters they tend to put on the news. And what they have is basically a malcontent. They're unhappy with the status quo. They're unhappy with the way things are and what's going on. And so they're fighting for kind of a nebulous idea out there. But several of the things that they want kind of cancel one another out. They want to get rid of nuclear power. They want to end the fossil fuel economy, as they put it. And but yet they're out there on Wall Street with their laptops and their iPads and their iPhones, and certainly enjoying the benefits that energy provides.
So, what do you make of this this movement? To me, I basically directly link it. I believe this has been fomented by people who are working for President Obama's reelection, whether or not you agree. I mean, I agree that there's an insidious connection between Wall Street campaign contributions and both parties in Washington, D.C. I think the case can be made for that. But really, when you get down to some of the more silly things that these people say, that's another story. But I believe that this is all basically part of Van Jones and the people who are trying to push the president's reelection. Do you not see it that way?
I certainly agree that it has been embraced and picked up by that element. The people, the White House has been supportive of it, and the Democratic Party and the unions, as we've mentioned, have been supportive of it. I don't know that it really started there, and I'm not sure what the real roots of it are. But at the very beginning of it, I mean, if they had 300 people show up there in the beginning, they were lucky. And I think that there is a hunger on the left for some kind of public voice. I feel like the Tea Party and the conservative movement at large has been able to garner a lot of attention, and I think that attention has been created largely because what is happening out of the White House has scared mainstream America to death. And so mainstream America began to come out en masse in 2009 in particular, and began to have some form of protest. Now, of course, if you look at the protests, they're very different style protests, and one is clean and orderly and picks up after themselves and represents everything that's great about America, and the other is chaotic and ununified and trashing the community. But you know what? The beautiful thing is both are okay in America, and that's what I like to focus on is as we look at that is, you know what, I don't happen to agree with most of what they're saying on Occupy Wall Street, although, as I mentioned in my townhall.com article, that one of the signs, and I have a link in my article to a collection of photos from it, and one of the signs says, "End the Fed." So, that's something I personally would probably support. It has nothing to do with my energy positions, but so there are diverse opinions out there. But you know what? In America, we can have those diverse opinions, and that's a great thing.
We're talking with Marita noon, 15 minutes past the hour. I noticed here in New Mexico there's a lot of hoopla about in Santa Teresa. They've got a solar project coming online, 20 megawatts of power. But we were talking in the last week or so about what the load is, what PNM's load is, and it was something like 2,100 megawatts. And so 20, and then my good buddy Paul says that if you're rated at 20 megawatts, you're going to get 2, maybe 3, that they typically run only about 10% of what they're rated. But even if you got all 20 of them, you're using 2,100 megawatts. And so 20 with all this hoopla is not very much,
No, it's a drop in the bucket. And as you mentioned, the problem with the renewables, particularly wind and solar, are that they are intermittent and they are unreliable, and they're not available on demand. And certainly wind and solar have a place, particularly in my opinion, solar in a location like a lot of the oil wells, as we've talked about before, use solar. There are places, remote rural communities, where wind power can be a wonderful supplement for them. And in some cases, I know people that live off the grid because they're rural, and wind or solar, all they have, and they use batteries to store that energy, and they don't use their computers all day, and they can't use their curling irons when they choose to, and so forth. They have to live a life that's very conscientious of that. But to think that wind and solar are going to replace traditional fuels anytime soon is craziness.
It isn't there. Marita Noon, we're going to have more with her right after these messages. We are News New Mexico. It is 18 minutes past the hour. Yeah, the world of high finance. We are News New Mexico. Talking with Marita Noon. Energy makes America great. Marita, you were just saying about the solar plant. I have a question for you about energy. How, P&M was talking about they're running between 2,000 and 2,100 megawatts. How much does that wind farm really give them?
I don't have an answer to that. I hate to tell you, but I can assure you it's a very small percentage, because we have only like 5% of the electricity generated comes from wind energy, though, as you mentioned earlier, the badge, so to speak, the amount that they advertise that they can provide is considerably higher. We normally on wind have about a 25% capacity, which that means that's how much of what it could produce if the turbines worked 24/7 at full capacity, where, for example, a nuclear power plant works at about 90% capacity. So all of their capacity for a nuclear plant basically is producing electricity, where wind energy, for example, is a much smaller percentage.
So, Marita, you're in Odessa, Texas today. You spend quite a bit of time in Texas, visiting there from time to time. Contrast the difference in the attitude of basically the people who are in charge in Texas. I'm talking about government, and their attitude towards wealth creation and the status in Texas of the average citizen as a result of that, to people like Ben Lujan and Michael Sanchez, who have an iron grip on the Senate and the House of Representatives in New Mexico. Well, why are we so poor, and why is Texas so rich when we're both energy-rich states?
Well, it's simply a matter of attitude, and that's really part of what my goal with Energy Makes America Great and our companion organization, Citizens Alliance for Responsible Energy, is to keep in front of the public the role that energy plays in their life and the importance of the energy creation and the subsequent wealth creation that comes from that. In New Mexico, we are very, very blessed, but especially under our previous administration, there was an attitude of that we don't want to touch that stuff because it's dirty, it's nasty, it's bad, it's whatever we might want to label it. And, it's interesting because I was at the New Mexico Mining Association convention. I may have mentioned this before, in September. And I was talking with a man there who was one of the vendors who stands to benefit from a strong mining sector in New Mexico. And he was in support of the current administration in Washington, and I was talking to someone at the table, as I would talk, and talking pro-energy and pro-extraction, and he said, well, what do you think is wrong? And I talked about the regulations and how difficult it is to do business and how you can't be sure what's going to happen, and so you don't want to make the multi-million-dollar investment that it's going to take to fight the system when you don't have any sense that you're even going to ever be allowed to drill or extract or explore.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to have that kind of investment. Marita Noon, we sure do appreciate all you do to help people understand energy makes America great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we look forward to the next time we get to talk to you. Have fun in Odessa, one of the fun spots of Texas.
I'm heading to Midland where there's a Fine Mart.
Oh, there you go. There you go. We are News New Mexico. Always enjoy talking with Marita Noon. She has a website, Energy Makes America Great. You should go look at that one.